People spend more time planning a freaking birthday party than they do designing their lives. If you fear failure, fear regret, much worse. Fear being in the same freaking place you are right now 2 years from now, unless you love where you are right now. There's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99% of them are BS. But we believe they're real and they impact our entire lives. I used to be afraid to raise my hand in a class in front of 10 kids. Now I speak in front of thousands of people a year in freaking flip-flops. Your strengths are your greatest freaking assets. Don't try to build your weaknesses. Here's what I tell my students: hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses. You want to be around people that think what you think is hard is easy. Massive freaking action. It's my catchphrase.
Rod Khleif joins me here again, and you can find all of his corresponding links. Head over to rodslinks.com, and I'm going to have that as a clickable link in the show note. But welcome back, Rod.
Yeah, it has been a while. It's great to see you, brother.
Yeah, we're going to spend a lot of time on mindset, and that's probably the biggest investment with the biggest ROI somebody can have especially when it comes to real estate investing. But if you haven't heard Rod's story, he's kind of went from riches to rags to riches.
It started at rags. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate to spend a ton of time on this, but Rod, would you mind sharing
I'll be
that
brief.
story
Yeah.
again?
I'll tell my story for those of you that haven't suffered through it before. But I'm a Dutch immigrant. Okay. Think wooden shoes and windmills. And I immigrated this country when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother's Vansha. We didn't have much. In fact, we ended up in Denver, Colorado, and we ate food from an expired food store. Believe it or not, they had that. Drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning because it was cheaper than real milk. And trust me, it sounds better than it is. And actually, I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army, hand-me-down clothes, all the way through junior high school until I finally lied about my age when I was 14 because I was tall and you could work if you were 15, and got a job at Burger King flipping burgers so I could go buy my own clothes. And luckily, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And with her babysitting money, she was a bit of an entrepreneur. She actually invested in the stock market successfully, in IPOs, no formal education, and also invested in real estate. Well, her first real estate acquisition was a house right across the street from us. She bought from a family named the Jewels for about $30,000 when I was 14. So we're talking 1974. And when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep that had gone up in value 20,000. This is when 20,000 was a lot of money. And I'm like, what? You made 20,000? You didn't do anything? Screw college. I'm getting into real estate. So I went out and got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18. I was actually a broker. Back then you could get a broker's license with education. They got smart. Now you need some experience before you can run your own office. But I could have had my own office. I was smart enough to go work for somebody, another broker. But my first year in real estate, I'm still living at home with mom. I made $8,000. My second year, maybe 10 grand. And don't hold me to this, but it's right around there. The third year, I made over $100,000. And that was a lot of money in 1980. So what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was mindset. I met a guy, the guy I was working for, actually, the broker I worked for. I was dating his daughter. His name was Gino. And he taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology. And 80 to 90% of your success in anything, including real estate, but anything else, is mindset and psychology. Your relationships, your health, it's all mindset, and definitely anything business related. And so, fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses that I've rented long-term. I own thousands of apartment units right now. In 2006, I had 800 houses and multiple apartment complexes here in Florida, and my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you might say, wow. And I said, wow. And I got a head so big, I could barely fit it through a door. I thought I was a freaking real estate god. When that happens, God of the universe will give you a nice little smackdown. Well, that was 2008. I lost $50 million conservatively in 2008. And so what I'm known for talking about on my podcast, and I'm blessed to host the largest real estate podcast in the world these days, for commercial real estate, that is, called Lifetime Cashflow. But what I'm known for talking about on there is mindset, and the mindset it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place. And maybe more important than the mindset it took to recover from losing all that. And so if you'd like, I'd love to drill down on some of those strategies with you, Jack. They're the same strategies if you're sitting on the sidelines and you haven't started yet. Maybe you're in a job. You may even like the job, but it's not enough to get you the freedom you and your family deserve. Or maybe you hate the job and you need to go do something else. The strategies I can share here will help you as well. Should I drill down on some of those, Jack?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
All right. So I will tell you, it all starts with goals. You got to know what the heck you want, because if you don't know what you want, how are you going to get it? Okay. And so, like, if you come to one of my boot camps, the first thing we do is goal setting on steroids. But if you go to that Rod's links, even if you don't go to my boot camp, I teach people how to buy apartment complexes. My students, we just discovered, my students, we are tracking how many units they own. We're at about 265,000 units that they purchase under my tutelage, as well as every other asset class, from senior housing, student housing, mobile home parks, hotel conversions, industrial flex space, all of it. But in multifamily, it's 265,000 units, which is just mind blowing to me. But anyway, if you go to one of my boot camps or you listen to my podcast, you'll hear me talk about goal setting. Goal setting is the most important piece, because you've got to create a burning desire. Okay. You've got to know what it is you want and why you want it. If you go to that Rod's links that's on the, that he had on there a minute ago, there's a goal setting workshop at the bottom. And I'm not going to try to sell you anything. Here's the thing, Jack. People spend more time planning a freaking birthday party than they do designing their lives. Doing your goals is designing your life. And so if you go to Rod's links, at the bottom is my goal setting workshop. It's about an hour. There's a guide you can download. Do it. Have your spouse do it. Have your kids, if they're over 10 years old, do it, and design your life, because that's the first step. Why? Because that's how you have the ability and the leverage on yourself to push through fear or to push through limiting beliefs. We'll talk about those more in just a second, but it starts with goal setting. Then and this is what I did when I lost everything. Got out from under the rock I was hiding under, feeling sorry for myself for a few months. But once I got my ass back up again, I did my goals and I reassociated with them, because I knew that's what it was going to take to get going again. And then you've got to make a decision. And I don't mean thinking about it. I mean, you've got to decide, because once you decide, you're like a train on a track. Now, if you don't decide, you're going to get knocked off track, but you've got to decide. And once you've decided, you're committed. Now, the Latin root for the word decision means to cut off. It's not 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's not dipping your toe in the water. It is freaking done. You know, and a great analogy for a real decision would be, if you're going to attack the island in battle, you burn your ships because you're taking their ships home. That's a freaking decision. So it starts with a decision. Then the next thing is, you've got to take that first step. Dr. Martin Luther King said, you take that first step in faith, the next step will be revealed. Lao Tzu, 1,000 years ago, said the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but you got to take that step. And sometimes it can be a small step, but it can be the biggest step of your life. And here's the thing, you know, a lot of people in my business, in the multifamily, commercial multifamily space, they're very analytical, and they're afraid of failure, and they have to check off every single box before they make a move. You know who you are, and I love you, and you're some of the most successful people in this business. But I'm going to tell you, here's the thing you got to remember. You can drive all the way across the United States at night with your headlight only seeing about 50 feet in front of you. And you know you can make it. Other people have done it before you. You may have obstacles, but it can be done. It's the same way with my multifamily business or any other business that you decide to go after. You learn it and you take that first step and you just go do it, and it'll happen. But you got to take the first step. You know, I see it with my students. It's the law of the first deal. It's 6 months in, they haven't got a deal yet, and I'm kicking them in the butt. Come on, stay focused. Go make those broker calls. Do what you got to do. 8 months, they get a deal. Next thing I know, they have 3. And what the hell just happened? Well, they realize it's all between their ears. It's the law of the first deal. It's the scariest. It takes the longest. But once it's done, it's like, oh, is that all there was? Then this is even with big deals, 100 units, multi-million-dollar projects. You got to take that first step, because I will tell you, if you fear failure, fear regret much worse. Fear being in the same freaking place you are right now 2 years from now, unless you love where you are right now. Jack, there was this nurse in Australia, a hospice nurse, and she was taking care of patients when they were about to die. And she asked him a question. And the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it. It's like a bestseller, something like The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was? It was not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. I can't think of anything worse than that, okay? So don't fear failure, fear regret. Let's talk about fear for a minute. You know, we achievers, we call it stress, but it's fear. Is it false evidence appearing real? I believe that's the truth. I think we fear the emotion of fear, not what we're actually fearing. But I like to use the acronym FACE EVERYTHING and RISE, because massive action mitigates fear. When I have stress at night and I'm stressing about something, which again is fear, I get up, I don't care if it's the middle of the night, and I will do something. I'll write a couple of notes down. I'll do something, because it mitigates the fear. And why those goals are a must to push through that fear. We all have fear. The successful people push through in spite of it. We also all have limiting beliefs. When I immigrated to this country, I got thrown into school. and I found out what bullies were. I didn't speak English. And then my mom, God bless her, I have the props right here. My mom sent me to school in these wooden shoes. And these are the actual freaking shoes. We found them when we put her in assisted living. And these leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. So I got my ass kicked again, and the bullies, the crack cocaine for the bullies. And then, the bullies would chase me home, and she'd chase them off with a fly swatter. So the next day, ass beaten. And I came up with this belief that I wasn't good enough. I used to ask myself, how can I show them I'm good enough, for God's sakes? And, a lot of people have these limiting beliefs, Jack, like I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not analytical enough. That was another one of mine. I don't have the courage. I'm too old, or I'm too young. Or we all have these belief systems that come from something that happened in our childhood, and they really typically have no basis in fact. There's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99% of them are BS, but we believe they're real and they impact our entire lives. So if you have one of these limiting belief systems that you're aware of, you're consciously aware of, when it pops up, drag it out into the daylight, look at it with your adult rational mind, recognize that it's BS, and it will dissipate and go away. I used to be afraid to raise my hand in a class in front of 10 kids. Now I speak in front of thousands of people a year in freaking flip-flops, okay? I was able to get rid of it and recognize that nobody really cares that much about you. And I knew I was a gift from God, and anybody that would reject me just didn't know me. But you've got to consciously pull it out and look at it when that fear or that limiting belief pops up. The next thing I'll talk about is focus. So focus is power. And focus is clarity. The most successful people on the planet have the highest degree of focus, i.e. Elon Musk, for example, or Bezos. They are focus machines. And, my podcast has been downloaded almost 30 million times, and I'll brag about that for a second, but I listen to two podcasts. I listen to Joe Rogan and I listen to Tim Ferriss, and they probably get that a week, the 30 million downloads. That's why I brought it up. But I try to get both sides of the aisle, Tim Ferriss and Joe Rogan. On Tim Ferriss's show, he interviews the best of the best in the world. Actors like Jamie Foxx, Ed Norton, Hugh Jackman, Arnold, athletes like Michael Phelps, the swimmer, NFL, NBA players, billionaires like Ray Dalio, heads of the biggest companies in the world like Zuckerberg. He deconstructs their success, like the steps they took. And I started to hear a pattern, Jack. They almost all meditate. What does meditation enhance? Focus. What you focus on gets larger, both positive or negative. So pay very close attention to what you're focusing on. I'll get people call me and say, how do I get out of student loan debt? And I'm like, wrong freaking question. How do you make so much money that debt's irrelevant is the right question. They asked Mother Teresa if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace. I mean, you get it's the same, but it's not, right? And so pay attention to what you're focused on. Super important. The next piece, especially in my business, multifamily real estate or commercial real estate in general, is playing to your strengths. Your strengths are your greatest freaking assets. Don't try to build your weaknesses. Here's what I tell my students: hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses. When you play to your strengths, number one is you're enjoying what you're doing, okay? Like, you're in the zone, or if you watch Jerry Maguire, you're in the Quan. You're just freaking loving what you're doing, right? Because you're playing to your strengths. And if you're playing to your strengths, besides that, you're going to be passionate about it. And passion is required to influence people. I mean, hopefully you can feel I've got a little passion about this. I freaking love what I do. And that's what's required. So if you're going to get into the business, you're going to have to influence brokers, sellers, investors, partners. And when you're passionate, people want to be around people that are passionate, but you got to love it to be passionate. And that passion, it's really the fuel. Even if you have, setbacks, and passion breeds innovation. It breeds creativity. If you have a setback, it's a speed bump. It's not a wall that stops you from moving forward. So again, play to your strengths. Now, the next piece I'll talk about is your peer group. So here's the sad reality. I mean, you've heard the adage, you are your three best friends. I mean, seriously, if you show me your three best friends, I'll show you who you are in every aspect of your life, your relationships, your health, your happiness, and definitely your finances, okay? And so, but here's the sad reality. People end up defaulting to a peer group that they went to school with or that they work with. And sometimes those people have their own fears and limiting beliefs, and they will hold you back. Maybe they're afraid of losing you because they love you, and that's a valid response if you're growing and becoming more. Or maybe they're afraid of feeling less than if you succeed. And sometimes it's family. And so I'm going to tell you, love your family, but proactively choose your peers, okay? Get around people that want more out of life. That's why my warrior coaching program is so freaking successful. I have about 2,000 coaching students around the country. Like I said, they own hundreds of thousands of units, and they do it together as a team because this is a team sport. It's why you play to your strengths and you hire a line or partner for your weaknesses. The most successful teams I see are an analytical person with an outgoing person. You need both pieces in my business, and your peer group is critical. I remember when I was losing everything in 2008, I was in Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership. And it was about 100 grand at the time. I was around people that were killing it in that crash. They were thriving. And they're like, get up, you puss, 50 million, schmillion, go make something happen. That's who you want to be around when the going gets tough. And candidly, that's who you want to be around when you're growing, because a rising tide lifts all ships. You want to be around people that think what you think is hard is easy. You know, I formed a mastermind for multifamily. It's probably the biggest in the world at the time. It's 40, 50 billion in assets in it. It just got too much. But I wanted to be around people that thought what I thought was hard was easy. That's why I formed it. And I may go back to it. It's called the Multifamily Boardroom. But, you know, really my warrior program, my coaching program takes a lot of my time now. But your peer group is super, super important, guys. So get around people that want what you want. Go to your meetup groups. You know, if you're interested in my warrior program, at Rod's links, you'll see a link, or you can just text the word crush. And then the next thing I want to talk about is problems or setbacks and even failures. You know, you don't grow if you're not having problems, respectfully doing a damn thing. Okay. You're not trying for sure. Okay. Everybody has problems. The key is to have higher quality problems as you go through life. Okay. And like right now, I need to get another coach. I've got a shortage of coaches, you know, because we do one-on-one coaching, and that's a quality problem, right? So you want to have better quality problems. You're going to have problems, period. You know, something happens at one of your apartment complexes. Again, it's a more quality problem than not having one. And so, you know, the key is to recognize you're going to have problems, and the only constant in life is change, but don't fear them, grow from them. Like if you come to one of my boot camps, like, can I plug my boot camp for a second? Is that all right?
Absolutely.
All right. So I have a boot camp almost every 2 or 3 months. It's virtual. I don't sell anything there. It's 16 hours of training. And if you'd use the code Jack, you can come for $47, and it'll be 6 times that once it gets closer to the event. But if you use the code Jack, you can come for $47, 16 hours of training in multifamily with nothing being sold. Tell me your excuse. No excuse. And you will leave so motivated, you'll be coming out of your skin, because I don't just teach you the multifamily. I spend time on mindset. You'll do your goals. You'll do an identity statement. You'll be coming out of your skin. You'll be so excited. So again, go to Rod's links, or you could go to rodsbootcamp.com as well. rodslinks.com or rodsbootcamp.com. But just remember to use the code Jack to get that $47 prize. And it comes with incredible bonuses, a deal evaluator software, document library that I spent tens of thousands of dollars on, my Finding Deals course, all that comes with it so there's no excuses. There's like thousands of dollars worth of bonuses as well. And you'll leave knowing how to pick a market, how to evaluate a market, how to find deals, how to evaluate them, how to raise all the money you need for them, how to syndicate, how to joint venture, or even how to property manage. So yeah, again, Rod's links or Rod's Bootcamp, and use the code Jack. And I got to remember to tell my team that. But anyway, so that's my boot camp. And I will tell you that you're going to have setbacks. You're going to have failures. Again, I lost 50 million freaking dollars, and I got it back because I used these strategies that I just shared with you to get going and to recover. And so you can use them too. But again, do the goal setting. It starts with that. Go to Rod's links, do my goal setting workshop, or better yet, come to my boot camp if you have any interest in real estate at all. The next thing I want to talk about, really the second to the last thing I want to talk about, is gratitude. Gratitude is the most powerful emotion we have available to us. It strengthens our immune system. It lowers our blood pressure. It brings us closer to our spirituality, and it's how you manifest everything you want in life. So most mornings I will sit in my recliner. I've got my vision board sitting next to me here, and I'll just be grateful for the people I love in my life, my students, my foundation, and my family. And then I'll do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them. And I have gotten emotional being grateful for things I don't even have yet. And I know some of you are like, oh, good Lord, here we go. Well, this is how I had 50 million to lose and how I got back. So ignore it at your freaking peril. Okay. It works. Trust me, but you got to do it. So use gratitude. It's so freaking powerful. If you are stressed or fearful, flip it to gratitude, because you cannot be grateful and stressed at the same time. You can't be grateful and fearful at the same time. You can't be grateful and angry at the same time. It's that important and powerful of an emotion. And the last thing I'll share with you, I ended up in Denver when I immigrated here, but I knew I always wanted to live on the beach. There's no freaking beach in Denver. I would visualize the palm trees and the sand and the surf. And 20 years later, I built this incredible 10,000 square foot mansion on the beach. I owned the beach on one side. I had my boats on the back side, and it was like called a Gulf to Bay. It was a slice through an island. I just drove by it yesterday, actually. So I'm in a compound right now and on the bay. And I lost that house and all the craziness. And because God's got a sense of humor, it's literally right across the bay from where I live now. But anyway, this house is magnificent. I mean, there was a giant waterfall from the second floor balcony to the pool, big spiral staircase up to the middle of the house, wine cellar, elevator. I'll land the plane with this. On the second floor, I had aquariums built around the staircase that cost me almost $200,000. So this gives you an idea of the house. Well, the story here is, and again, don't leave me on this. This is super important. It might be the most important thing you hear today. 2 months after I moved in. So I worked for this thing for 20 freaking years. 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night. The pool's changing colors. It's got fiber optic lighting. And I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. It was to prove to the freaking world I was good enough. I mean, if that didn't do it, then forget it. My beautiful family's inside sleeping. And I had all the toys, the Maserati, Mercedes, boats, jet skis, all the crap. I had all that. And I'm looking up at this thing and I got depressed. And this is 2 months after I moved in. And I don't mean a little depressed. I mean, I was really like, holy crap, depressed. I'm like, what is going on? I mean, I've just achieved success like times 10,000. So there were 3 things happening. The first thing is I didn't know what I was going to do next. And when you achieve a big goal, you've got to have other goals lined up behind it. It's like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. I didn't have a vision for the future. So that was number 1. Number 2 is it's never about the goals. Like they say, the happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy the boat, the day they sell the boat. It's never about, you need the goals to create that burning desire and that hunger, but it's not about the goals. Happiness comes from progress and growth. And I didn't know how I was going to continue to progress and grow. So that was number 2. But the third one was probably the biggest one, is I'd been totally focused on me. I was 40 years old. It was all Rod, show the world I matter, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's the year I met Tony Robbins. I spent 20 years with Tony Robbins, by the way. But that's the year I met him. And by the way, if you have a chance to see him, shout out to Tony. Just go see him. Trust me, you'll thank me. But I found out that he fed families for the holidays. And I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. So I called my brother in Denver, and I was going to go see him for Thanksgiving. I said, bro, let's feed 5 families. So I flew in, we went shopping, and we had a lot of fun. We bought food, frozen turkeys, toys for the kids if we knew they had them. And he had called his church to find out who really needed help. The third family changed my life, Jack. So we go to this house, and it's not even a house. It was like a row house, shack, 1 bedroom. Wasn't even a good 1 bedroom because you had to walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen, which had the bathroom off of it. There was a Hispanic woman there with 5 kids. She comes out and she sees all the stuff on the porch and she starts crying. Her kids come out, 2 of the older ones start crying. I start crying. And I'm hooked. Now, please know what I'm going to share now is not ego, because there's a huge message in this for you. In the last 25 years, I've fed over 150,000 children here in my area for the holidays, at-risk children. I've provided tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies. I'm providing 2,000 this Saturday at the Boys and Girls Club here in Sarasota. I provided thousands and thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for their officers to keep in their vehicles if they encounter a child that's been in a traumatic situation. And again, this is not me bragging. What I want to share with you is Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement's a science. If you want to learn multifamily or learn real estate, get your butt to my boot camp. There's no excuses for $47. I'll give you the blueprint. I'll give you the map. You just got to go do it, okay? But fulfillment is an art. You've got to figure out what juices you and give back. And you might be saying, yeah, Rod, you had money. That's why you did it. Listen, you want the money? Give back. That's how you get it, okay? Power moves to those who serve. And you get it back to sometimes 100 times. Definitely, you get it back in a multiple. So figure out what juices you. For me, it's kids. It's also the elderly. I'm getting into senior housing. But maybe for you, it's animals or the environment or whatever it is. Give back right now. And if you don't have the money, give up your time, because success will come faster. I promise you. All right. That's all I got, man.
That's all you got?
Well, we can drill down on multifamily if you want for a bit.
This is so rare for me to just let somebody go, because I mean, it's always gold when you're on, Rod.
Oh, thanks, brother.
In fact, if you hadn't taken your notepad out when Rod was talking, I have a page full already of things I was jotting down. You really missed out. So you might want to rewind some of this and replay. But, this show only grows if you share it with an investor friend. So please consider doing that. If you are watching us on YouTube, come on. This is definitely worth a like and subscribe. Rod, we could dive into this, but I know you're such
I
a
will do it
busy
again,
guy.
brother. We can do it another one. We'll just do fundamentals of multifamily on another episode sometime. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'd appreciate that.
That's super high level. So again, if you have any interest, for God's sakes, for $47, there's no excuse to not attend my boot
We're going to
camp.
give you a testimonial on that, Rod.
Okay.
I joined your event one for 2 days or whatever. It's like the 16
Oh, you
hours.
did? Wow.
And it was one of the most value-packed event I've been to regarding this. The amount of content and material you cover is so worthwhile that I can't recommend it enough.
I've never had a complaint. I've had 16,800 people attend my boot camps. The only complaint I ever get, sometimes I do a live one in person as well, and that's 3 days, is the room's too cold or the food sucked. On my virtual one, it's just because the breaks are too short because I'm packing in so much information. So I've really never had a complaint other than that, which is very unusual.
So, well, one of the things that really stands out here today, Rod, is the fact that I really love the fact that, we hear a lot when it comes to mindset that we can manifest this or that. But unless you really have a focus on, unless you take some serious action, you can dream all you want. Nothing's going to happen.
Massive freaking action. It's my catchphrase. Just go do it. My most successful students aren't the smartest. They're not the ones that started with money. They're not the ones that live in the biggest towns. They can be in a town of 2,000 people. They're the ones that just go do it. They change their story. Most people have a story that holds them back, the limiting beliefs that hold them back. But if you change your story and just go take massive freaking action, success is inevitable. It's going to happen, period.
Well, you just said the line that's going to open the show, Rod.
No.
Change your story. Well, if you're ready, Rod, we always close out the show with a brief list of rapid fire questions. We'll get to that here in a moment. But again, it is rodslinks.com. Take advantage of that. $47 for this type of.
Well, there are resources too. There's a bunch of free resources there. There are best-in-class free books there. There's my number one best-selling book. You pay $6, I'll send you the physical copy. And by the way, it cost me $30 to send it to you. So don't think I'm making money. But there's a ton of free PDF downloads, and some of them are best in class. They're better than anything you could buy. So there's a lot of free stuff there too.
Well, always appreciated, Rod. Well, if you're ready, we'll jump into the rapid fire and close out this episode. What lie do real estate investors often tell themselves?
Well, it's a fear of failure. It's a fear, and it locks them up. Fear paralyzes. So, like I'll have people call me and say, should I quit my full-time job and go do this full-time? And I say, no, never. Because if you get fearful, you'll be paralyzed. But fear is what stops people. It's not really a lie. Maybe it's a lie that they're afraid they can't do it. But, anything you put your mind to will flourish. Put mind and energy. Anything you put your mind and total energy to will flourish. You just got to go do it. You got to realize that it's not as intimidating as it looks. Believe it or not, buying a 100-unit apartment complex is not as hard as you think it is. In fact, sometimes it's easier than buying other things. So don't think it's hard. It's not. It's just a lack of knowledge. So yeah, there's my answer.
Do you find that a lot of people, they're more fearful that they're coming to the reality that maybe they're not up to doing the level of work versus the system not working?
Well, sure. I mean, but I've had students that retired from very high paying consuming jobs with kids, with families, doing this on the side, and quite a few students. And so listen, there's no excuse, honestly. Don't tell me it's time. Don't tell me it's money, because you don't need money. You can raise the money for these deals. Okay. Yeah, they require money, but it doesn't have to be your own money. My students have raised hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's just having conversations with people. Even that's intimidating, but it's not. You just start a friendship, start talking. And if you come to my event, we give you actually a sample deal package that you can share with an investor and say, hey, this is the kind of stuff we're looking for. Should I give you a call if we find something? So, fear is what holds most people back.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, I wouldn't have done the single family for sure. And I asked this question on my podcast too, because I want them to hear from my guests who have thousands and thousands of units. It's always go bigger, faster. And, when I lost everything in 2008, it was the houses that pulled me down. It wasn't the apartments. My part, if I hadn't cross collateralized with packages of houses to save, 0.5% interest. So no, I would never buy another house unless it's a third, fourth, fifth place for me as a rental. The multifamily is much safer, even if it's just a fourplex or an 8-unit or something like that. You have 1 or 2 units empty, you can still break even. With a house you're empty, it's 100% vacant. So yeah, go bigger, faster is the answer.
Do you have a book recommendation, or what are you reading right now?
Bunch of books. My love language is gifts. If you haven't read The 5 Love Languages, I had the author on my show. I've given away thousands of copies of his books, The 5 Love Languages. In my Warrior program, my students get the Miracle Morning from Hal Elrod. I'm blessed to have him on the show a couple times. Gary Keller's One Thing. I had Jay Papasan, his co-author, on the show. I guess I'm just picking books that have been on the show. The Slight Edge, about those decisions you make every day that don't mean that much that day, but over time they traject your life up or down. You know, if you have a hamburger every day, you know what direction it's going. So The Slight Edge is a good one. Of course, I've given away, and I'm not exaggerating, probably 6,000 or 7,000 copies of Think and Grow Rich. That's the premier mindset book. I mean, everything since then has been articulated via that work of art. And so that's a book you must read a couple times a year.
And then finally, what single process or tool have you implemented that has had the biggest time-saving impact?
Well, now lately, AI, dude. AI is phenomenal. My God. I mean, I'll give you an example. So right now I've got a pinched nerve in my back. And I asked AI, I asked the chat, you know, what's the best time to go to the hospital? Because I went to a hospital in Miami. Oh my God. And I went to this Jackson Memorial. I'm going to slam them publicly. And you got to talk through the person when you go in through bulletproof glass. I go in there, it was like the ghetto in there, and it was stunk, and it was, oh my God, it was just a bunch of degenerates. And it's not a racial comment. It was mixed, but it was terrible. I stayed about 5 minutes and left. And so I asked ChatGPT, what's the best time to go to another hospital? And it said Sunday morning from 4 to 8 a.m. So I went to Doctor's Hospital. I drove back here to Sarasota. I've got a place in Miami and a place here. And I drove back and I went to Doctor's Memorial. And I was in and out in a freaking hour with a CAT scan, with an IV, with steroids, and literally an hour. So yeah, ChatGPT is like, and of course it's incredible to build reach with ChatGPT now. You know, it'll do content for you. It'll post the content, tell you where to post it, and do all this. If you are not learning AI, maximizing AI, you're going to get left behind, period. My whole team's working it, learning it, becoming better at it.
Yeah. Well, and now it's a selfish plug. If you need some help regarding AI and automation, hit me up at realdealcrew.com. For that, I'm happy to help where I can. Rod, this is fantastic again. Really appreciate it. Hope you'll come back again. I'd love to give everybody a primer on multifamily investing with you.
Oh, we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen for sure, Jack.
And really appreciate it. Great to see you.
Likewise. Thanks, brother. You be well. Thank you.